The servant's words interrupted Linde's thoughts. He grabbed the straps and stepped out of the room. The white crystal lamps in the corridor had already gone out, now gathering energy, waiting to shine again at night. This is a magical creation, proof of the existence of magic in this world. The level of magic in this world is neither particularly high nor particularly low. There are no world-shattering ultimate forbidden spells, but many nobles can use magic. So far those who have shown great power include priests with faith in God's powerful magical beasts and dragons. But apart from magic and divine spells, nothing else has been seen. Linde was different from his hot-tempered brute of a father. He inherited his mother's strong magical talent. As far as Linde could remember, ever since his mother passed away, he had never undergone any systematic study of magic. After a short while, Linde arrived at the stable and found his mount a warhorse with the bloodline of a magical beast. He named it Tongguang, and he was already quite familiar with it. Tongguang, let's head into the city today. He petted this outstanding mount which gleamed with a bronze sheen all over. Even a top horse expert would say, "Good horse, good horse." Linde, skillfully mounted, squeezed the horse's flank and Tongguang neighed once, immediately understanding, then headed straight for the city. Looking back, the Count's castle stood atop the small hill in the city center, appearing easy to defend but hard to attack. Its walls were made of massive white stones, looking from afar like snow-capped mountain peaks. Linde turned his head to look down the mountain. The vast city seemed to tell the story of its prosperity, while the towering city walls in the distance spoke of their strength. Heading down into the city, the houses were built side by side. The streets were fairly clean and the roads were paved with sturdy white stone slabs, with horse-drawn carriages passing by every now and then. This city is called Truck, named after the Earl's family name. The territory is called the County of Truck. The city is Truck City and the castle is Truck Castle. Linde thought about it as he glanced down at the blue noble robe he wore, emblazoned with the Count family's crest, and a long sword gripped by a knight's gauntlet. In this city, that outfit signified authority and the highest real power. When he first arrived in the city, a few guard soldiers immediately stepped forward and fell in behind Linde, acting as temporary bodyguards. Passers-by along the road all saluted him. Not wanting to attract too much attention, Linde told Tongguang to pick up the pace. Before long, Linde reached his destination, a dwarf blacksmith's workshop. Linde had been here before, greeted the owner, and used his savings to commission a handy weapon, a full set of enchanted steel javelins. Back in college, Linde was a very playful student who loved violent weapons. He used to play Mount Blade 2, and even Baldur's Gate in the dorm, always favoring the throwing style. Originally he got the weapon just to practice and arm himself a bit, but now with the aura enhancement he expected that with his strength and ability a full-powered throw could pierce thick plate armor. Linde thought to himself as a dwarf walked out of the shop, his thick beard nearly obscuring his entire face. "Old Derai, is my javelin finished yet?" Old Derai is a dwarf craftsman who came to work in the Count's territory long ago. Because the Count's territory borders the dwarf kingdom, it's common to see many dwarves around the Count's lands. Old Derai trained many skilled craftsmen for the Count's family, but eventually he grew tired and planned to open his own forge. Dwarves are stubborn, hard-headed creatures. Even the Count couldn't do much with him, but in the end he still left him in his city. "It's done, I'll go get it for you." If you want a dwarf to craft gear for you, it's simple, just offer him a keg of good wine and treat him to a hearty drink. Old Derai came out carrying a large bundle of javelins that glinted coldly. Linde took the javelins and placed them on a small table nearby, studying them closely. "These javelins were made according to your blueprints, very handy. I also added armor-piercing, wind-breaking and durability enchantments for you. With this thing in your hand you could go straight to slay a dragon." Linde smiled. He knew old Derai was joking. "Forget dragons, I still want to live a few more years." Chapter 4: Qualified Weapons. Roar, roar, roar. Old Derai gave an awkward laugh. "Don't forget my wine, you promised me a whole barrel." Linde packed up the weapon and said, "Don't worry, old Derai, I'll have someone deliver the wine later. I have some business to attend to, so we'll head out first." "Alright, just don't forget." Old Derai wasn't in a hurry, so he just dozed off right there in the shop. Linde strapped his weapon onto the horse's back and quickly ran toward the castle, unable to contain his excitement over the new weapon he had just acquired. As soon as he arrived at the castle, Linde called over the servants and instructed them to take a box of wine from the storage and deliver it to old Derai's workshop. Then he hurried straight to the training ground without wasting a moment. The barracks and training ground of Truck Castle were built together for the convenience of soldier training. The training ground was vast, covered with sand and gravel. Linde arrived just as the soldiers had finished their morning exercises. A large group of freshly trained strong young men sat on the ground resting. From afar, Linde spotted a strong figure in the crowd with neatly cropped golden blonde hair, still radiating heat from a recent workout, looking full of vitality. That person was Astaire, the escort knight who had rescued Linde. He had come by several times while Linde was bedridden, like likely out of some sense of guilt. Linde and he were not very familiar before Astaire had been away on campaign with the Earl, so their encounters were few. All he knew was that Astaire was a loyal and exceptional knight, steadfast in his devotion to the Earl's household. Later, after forging a bond deeper than blood, they grew considerably closer. Astaire's keen eyes immediately spotted Linde dressed in a blue robe, and he hurried over to assist with his horse. "Young Master Linde, have you come to try out the new weapons?" After Linde recovered from his injury, he often came here eager to test out various weapons and armor to satisfy his craving for action. During that time, many soldiers came to know him, and word spread among them that the Earl's second young master had a particular fondness for all manner of weapons and armor. The gossip eventually reached the Earl himself. The Earl was so pleased that he insisted on gifting him a set of enchanted plate armor. Naturally, he accepted the plate armor, and after wearing it once with only 2 enchantment sharpness and lightness, you could hardly believe that such heavy armor felt like little more than a leather jerkin, allowing for remarkably agile movement. Linde smiled and patted the large pack strapped to Tongwang's back. "The custom weapon old Della made is finished as soon as it arrived. I thought I'd come here to test its power." The two chatted as they made their way to the shooting range. Numerous archers and marksmen were training here. Upon seeing Linde and Astaire arrive, they all set down their arms and hurried over to watch. Linde swung down from his horse and removed the weapons pack from the saddle. Everyone whispered among themselves, curious about what new weapon Master Linde had brought this time. Linde knew that throwing weapons in this world were still rather primitive, mostly short-headed throwing spears and heavy darts, all with quite limited destructive power. They worked fairly well against wooden shields and chainmail, but were much less effective against plate armor and metal shields. So this time he meticulously drew up some designs and asked old Delra to forge a few immensely powerful javelins, the cell javelins from Mount Blade II, commonly known as cell missiles. These javelins have very long spearheads, double-edged blades, and are forged from metal, boasting formidable armor-piercing power. In special situations they can even be wielded forwards as short-handled double-edged spears, making them outstanding weapons both in close combat and at range. Not to mention they are now enchanted with armor-piercing, wind-breaking, and resilience spells. Their power is beyond doubt. Linde set the bag on the table and peeled back the cloth, revealing 8 blades gleaming coldly, faint silver light flashing now and then across their edges. The soldiers around him drew a sharp breath, whispering among themselves, "What sort of weapons are these?" "Short spears, but the spearheads are far too long. Yet as spears they are far too short." At that moment Astaire recovered from his surprise and asked, "My lord, what is this?" Linde gave a knowing smile and explained, "This is a javelin used just like a throwing spear." Then Linde took the javelin to the shooting range and ordered, "Bring a suit of chainmail and plate armor and 2 shields as well." The soldiers soon brought the gear, awkwardly fitting it onto the targets. Once everyone had withdrawn, Linde drew an cell javelin, weighing it carefully and testing its heft. "Not bad, let's first test the power of the chainmail." Then he hurled the spear. The silver spear flashed briefly before disappearing without a sound. When it was found again, the javelin was lodged in the ground behind the target, and the chainmail target bore a 3-finger-wide pierced hole. The soldiers stood speechless at the sight. They had encountered mighty magic before, but a weapon so silent yet so devastating was something truly unheard of. Next is the plate armor. Linde promptly drew his second javelin, leaving the onlookers no time to relax. With a single throw, a flash of silver streaked forth, and a large hole appeared in the plate armor, indistinguishable from the one on the previous target. Next were the shields, wooden and iron. The wooden shield was pierced and shattered to pieces, while the iron shield fared no better than the earlier iron armor, leaving a massive puncture behind. Astaire stepped forward, picked up a javelin, and examined it closely while the soldiers exchanged wary glances, afraid to utter a word. The young knight approached the target once again, holding the javelin and comparing it to the piercing hole on the target. Then, clutching the javelin, he jogged over to Linde. He seized Linde's hand and said excitedly, "My lord, was this formidable weapon crafted by your design?" Linde nodded and replied, "A pity this is an enchanted weapon. I'm afraid it can't be produced in large numbers." It was plainly visible that Astaire's once enthusiastic gaze gradually dimmed. "Actually, this javelin can be mass-produced. The main prerequisite is having an enchanter skilled in their craft. You can't blame Linde for keeping a trick up his sleeve. He intends to outfit his own army with them in large numbers when the time comes. Even if others learn to make it won't matter. The true power of this weapon lies in its use by cavalry from horseback. Cavalry equipped with such weapons, leveraging their superior mobility and heavy carrying capacity, can pose a tremendous threat to the formations of heavily armored infantry. From what Linde understands, wars in this world are still dominated by traditional soldiers. New magical methods remain largely confined to logistics and equipment enchantments, though these are advancing swiftly and show signs of gaining prominence. If a well-trained corps of mages cast their spells in unison, their power would certainly be impressive. But in terms of cost, it would be quite terrifying. Dismissing the soldiers who had gathered to watch, Linde carried his weapons back to his chamber and carefully placed them upon the cabinet. He then made his way to the great great hall. The old earl had arranged a feast for midday and his attendance was compulsory. I wonder what on earth the old earl is plotting. With that, Lynde arrived at the entrance of the banquet hall. Hearing many unfamiliar voices inside, his curiosity only deepened. Chapter 5: A New Teacher. Creak. As the servants on either side swung open the great doors of the banquet hall, many guests were already gathered inside. These were the lords under Earl Lynde's rule, several viscounts accompanied by a good number of barons. Lynde's arrival drew little attention. Weaving through the bustling crowd, his heart brimmed with curiosity and excitement at the lively gathering. His handsome features caught many eyes, yet he paid them no mind, wandering aimlessly and savoring this rare moment of merriment. Suddenly a figure appeared before his eyes like an elf. She was a graceful young maiden, her skin as white as snow, her eyes shining like stars, and golden locks of hair gently brushing her fair cheeks. What made her even more remarkable was the mysterious and enchanting magical aura that surrounded her. A wondrous magical fluctuation clad in a grey mage's robe. Clearly this young lady was a mage. Lynde's gaze was drawn to this beautiful mage maiden. She suddenly turned to meet his eyes, then swiftly approached and performed a flawless noble curtsy before him. Lord Lynde, greetings. I am Alice, a high-ranking mage. The maiden stood before Lynde, reaching only up to his shoulders. Lynde could only look down upon her. Just as Lynde wondered how the girl came to know him, the once noisy banquet hall gradually fell silent. The old earl steadily ascended the dais, his commanding voice resonating throughout the hall. Everyone, I have an important announcement to make today. All eyes turned toward the old earl upon the dais. The old earl smiled and continued. My second son Lynde has come of age and is about to set out for our family's new territory to become its new lord, bringing greater glory to the Truck House. With that, enthusiastic applause rose from the audience. To help him better manage affairs there, the old earl cleared his throat and went on. I have specially arranged for an exceptional magical tutor for him, Miss Alice. Surely some of you have heard her name. At just 18 she earned the title of Grand Mage of the Empire, a rare prodigy. From today onward, Alice will accompany Lynde to the new territory. Lynde was surprised to discover that the young lady before him was none other than the magic tutor his father had specially invited. It seemed the old earl had planned everything from the start. What followed were the formal greetings and introductions from nobles of all kinds, leaving Lynde quite overwhelmed. Most of their names were long and unwieldy, and he couldn't remember a single one. Besides, once he reached his distant new estate, he wouldn't see any of these nobles again. Amidst everyone's congratulations, Lynde drifted through the entire feast in a daze and only returned to his chamber late into the night. Clutching the new noble appointment from the old earl along with a stack of documents from the noble court, Lynde sank into thought. In the empire of Kiri, an old noble's lands passed to his legitimate eldest son. Second sons or illegitimate offspring are either granted their own fiefs, becoming new nobles, or serve as the new heir's trusted lieutenants. Naturally, they might also swear fealty to other nobles. Lynde was the luckiest of all, blessed with an earl father who cared for him, complete with lands, an army, and all that should accompany them. From this moment forward, he was officially recognized as a new noble. He could design his family's crest and name, then register them with the noble court. The noble court will record his new lineage, and the updated manual of noble conduct will list his title and lands. Just as Lynde was fretting over his coat of arms, a girl's voice suddenly spoke from behind. You look troubled. What's on your mind? Startled, Lynde realized he hadn't activated his aura before and had been so lost in thought that he hadn't noticed anyone approach. Reacting instinctively, Lynde unleashed his aura at full focus. The surge of life energy instantly heightened his speed and strength. In an instant, he pinned the girl behind him to the floor. Alice. The girl's face bore a stunned expression, clearly not yet grasping what had happened. Alice, who am I? Where am I? What just happened? The coldness of the floor brought her back to reality. She was pinned down by her lord's pupil. Warmth from the hands holding her back sent a ticklish sensation over her. Lynde quickly helped Alice to her feet, brushing off the imaginary dust from her clothes. What Lynde did not see was that with each gentle pat on Alice's cheek, her face grew ever redder. Miss Alice, are you all right? I didn't realize you had come in just now and was quite taken by surprise. Me sincere apologies. Lynde felt awkward and dared not glance at Alice. Had he looked up, he would have noticed her face flushed so deeply it seemed as if it might glisten with dew. The girl quickly came to her senses and pulled the wide-brimmed mage's hat over her head, hiding herself thoroughly beneath it. I am sorry, it's my fault. I knocked and when no one answered, I just came in. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, you'll come back tomorrow. The girl said this and ran off without looking back, leaving Lynde standing there completely flustered. Ah well. Indeed, everyone at the banquet was busy dealing with the nobles, and this new teacher had been completely forgotten. I'll go talk to her again tomorrow. The girl's pretty, her skin so paleous that because she's learned magic. I wonder. The Linde XP system is quite a medley, big or small. Everyone appreciates it as long as it looks good. What Linde didn't realize was that by activating the aura of vitality and simultaneously touching a mage, she had unwittingly triggered a powerful addiction in the mage to the this intense source of magic. Alice darted back to her room in a flash. With a loud bang she slammed the door shut. Leaning against it breathless she fought to calm her thundering heart. What was that feeling just now, that peculiar sensation spreading from my hands? Countless thoughts and emotions swirled chaotically in Alice's mind. Alice tightly gripped the large hood of her cloak. This is absolutely mortifying. Meanwhile, in the Earl's study, the old Earl and several viscounts from his faction held a secret meeting. Their drunken behavior at the banquet made them seem like completely different people. So she's a newcomer from the Academists. Can those old fools really tolerate letting such a prodigy mingle with the nobility? What's wrong with the Academists? They need money just like anyone else. Besides, she's noble-born, should naturally be a noble-aligned mage. Those old timers aren't going to give up easily. What's the dean's take on it? What else could he say? She intends to restrict the production of magical weapons. They consume far too much. Alright, let's leave it at that for now. The old Earl stood up, silencing the attendees' murmurs. The reason she was sent here was also a compromise by the dean. He sighed and turned toward the window. I sent her and Linde to the new territory to keep them away from the heart of the conflict. After all, outside the window the night was silent and still. The war will not stay quiet for long. Chapter 6: Introduction to Magic. At dawn, when the first ray of sunlight slips through the curtains gap, gently brushing over the sleeping earth, the air fills with a fresh scent. Laden flowers and grasses sway in the breeze as if preparing for the day ahead. Birds laze on the branches, their chirping all the sweeter in the quiet morning, adding life and vigor to this freshly sprung world. So you've never read a single book about magic, nor have you ever used it? The girl's startled voice sent the birds flying away. Seeing the girl before him, her face full of disbelief, Linde scratched his head awkwardly. He couldn't be blamed. His family was a proud martial lineage with generations that revered strength above all. Take his father, for instance. The old Earl himself was a mithril rank grand knight, a fearsome warrior. Regarding magic, the old Earl was quite clear. Unless magic can smash through solid castle walls, it's just a bunch of flashy tricks. I can take them down one by one with my sword. On the Tyr continent, the nobility divides power advancement into 6 ranks. Commoners achieve bronze, silver and golden ranks, while nobles hold the refined copper, mithril and gleaming gold ranks. From the silver rank onward, each advancement requires the support of alchemical potions. Creating these advancement potions isn't difficult. The real challenge lies in the massive quantities of rare magical beast materials needed. Commoners simply can't bear such enormous financial costs. Only a handful of wealthy merchants can afford to train a small group of advanced guards, but even they stop at the golden rank. Bronze rank warriors are akin to elite heavy infantry, while those at silver rank begin to tap into the supernatural, wielding some impressive combat techniques. By the time one reaches golden rank, they can unleash truly powerful martial skills. The third tier knights, controlled by the nobility, simply called knights, are leagues ahead of common warriors. A single bronze rank knight can break through the siege of hundreds of bronze warriors 7 times over without being caught. Mithril and gleaming gold rank warriors are even more extraordinary. Only counts and grand dukes typically possess such formidable power. After reaching the golden rank, their numbers drop sharply. Golden rank warriors typically number only 1 or 2 in each viscount level family. As for top tier power, the gleaming gold rank knights, there is currently only Duke Kelly holding that distinction. The Truck family has 3 golden rank warriors. 2 have been granted viscount titles and serve elsewhere, while the other is Astaire himself. The old Earl is truly a mithril rank knight possessing formidable strength. Growing up in such an environment, Linde had virtually no access to magic save for what she learned from her mother. Sigh. The young girl sighed and carefully closed the heavy tome. Then I'll begin by explaining the basic composition of magic. Magic is composed of mental power, which is the foundation of all magic. The magic web frames the entire world within a fundamental structure. Inside this framework, various rules operate and everything follows its own laws. We mages are the fortunate ones among them. From the moment we're born, our mental power is stronger than others. We can draw strength from the magic web through our mental power. Your mental power determines how much magic you can draw from the magic web. It's like an enormous piece of cloth. The more mental power you have, the larger your hand is when you reach out, and the bigger the section of cloth you can grasp. We mages categorize ourselves by the amount of mental power we possess. The lowest rank is apprentice mage, who can only learn simple sleights of hand. Once your mental power is sufficient to master 5 such sleights, you can study magic in the academy system and become a true apprentice mage. After apprentice mage comes intermediate mage, then advanced mage, and finally grand mage. At that, the girl paused for a moment. To put it plainly, I'm now a senior mage, not to boast, but am the youngest senior mage ever. Unfortunately, the slight curl of her lips and her proud posture gave her away. Amazing, truly a prodigy. Linde realized that although his teacher was an authentic senior mage, his mindset was still like that of his a child at heart. Take this book first. It contains dozens of apprentice sleights of hand. Pick 5 that catch your interest and start practicing. If you don't understand something, just come ask me. With that, the girl reached into the wide mage's sleeve and pulled out a fairly thin worn leather book, handing it to Linde. Noticing Linde still puzzling over how Alice had pulled a book from her sleeve, she added, "This is one of the basic sleight of hand tricks called Mage's Sleeve. It can store some inanimate objects. Once you become a mage, you'll be able to learn more advanced spells. By the way, you meditate, don't you?" Linde himself did know how to meditate, though he rarely practiced practiced it. Seeing Lynde nod, the girl let out a relieved sigh. That's good, that's good. Alright, you practice on your own then. I won't disturb you any longer, I'm leaving now. Perhaps because of what happened last night, the young girl seemed noticeably uneasy, and with those words she left the room like a fleeting breeze. That's it. It seemed she could only teach herself. Lynde sighed and took out the old book the girl had just handed him. It was a very old book, but clearly its owner had cherished it. At least it was still as sturdy as a new one. Opening the book, he found the human script of this world, and with his prior memories, reading it posed no difficulty. First comes the preface. The path of magic is endless, but every step must be firmly grounded. Next is the table of contents filled with all sorts of sleight of hand tricks, but at the very end one trick is set apart in its own category. Lynde flipped through the table of contents and to her surprise found it was the Mage's Sleeve that Alice had performed before. According to the book, this small trick can create a storage space about 1 cubic meter in size anywhere, but it can only hold inanimate objects, no living things. 1 cubic meter, that's a bit small, and it can't hold living things either.